The Awakening. The skies above Earth no longer belong to humanity. For the past 3 decades, the massive shadow vessels of the Vraxian Empire had loomed like obsidian monoliths, constant reminders of how quickly humanity had fallen. From space, Earth appeared wounded, scars of orbital bombardment visible as barren patches where cities once stood, the atmosphere tinged with the sickly green fog of Vraxian terraforming initiatives. Ilara Kane stood at the edge of mining Sector 17, once known as Colorado Springs. Her shoulders ached from 12 hours of continuous labor, but she didn't dare show fatigue. The Vraxian overseers were always watching, their multifaceted eyes glinting with contempt as they surveyed their human workforce. Their chitinous exoskeletons made them look like walking nightmares, a cross between mantids and crocodiles, standing 7 feet tall. Sector 17 will increase production by 15% beginning tomorrow, announced Overseer Draz, his mandibles clicking with each syllable. Any human failing to meet the new quota will be recycled. Recycling. The euphemism made Ilara's stomach turn. Everyone knew what happened in the processing plants. Humans who didn't produce enough were turned into biomass to feed the Vraxian larva farms. Their masters weren't wasteful. "Move along, breeder," hissed a guard, shoving Ilara with the blunt end of his neural lash. "Back to your dormitory." Ilara stumbled forward, keeping her eyes down. 28 years old, and she had never known true freedom. She had been born just after the invasion, just after the week-long war that had ended with humanity's unconditional surrender. The Vraxians had arrived with technology centuries beyond Earth's best defenses. Nuclear weapons had bounced harmlessly off their shields. Fighter jets had been swatted from the sky like gnats. Humanity's armies, once thought invincible, had collapsed like children's toys. The dormitory was crowded with exhausted miners, 100 humans packed into a space designed for half that number. The air stank of sweat and despair. Ilara found her sleeping pod, little more than a shelf with a thin mattress, and collapsed onto it. "They're increasing the quotas again," whispered Kai, her neighbor. Once a university professor, now just another disposable worker. "They're trying to work us to death. They need the minerals for their fleet expansion," Ilara replied, her voice barely audible. Talking too loudly could trigger the audio sensors. "Something's happening out there in the galaxy. Something that has them worried." Kai nodded, his eyes hollow. "Did you hear about Sector 12? They found something in the deep mines. Some kind of chamber. The Vraxians sealed it off immediately, killed everyone who saw inside." Ilara felt a chill. The Vraxians had been particularly aggressive about certain mining sites, especially those that went deeper than needed for simple resource extraction. As if they were looking for something, or hiding something. Sleep came fitfully that night, filled with strange dreams. Ilara saw stars, countless worlds, battles fought with weapons that could shatter planets. She dreamt of humans, but not as they were now, weak and subjugated. These humans commanded the stars themselves, their eyes blazing with golden light, their mere presence causing alien species to kneel in terror and reverence. She woke gasping, her body drenched in sweat. "Move out. Emergency shift," barked the dormitory guard. "Sector 12 has collapsed. All workers report for excavation duty." The accident site was chaos. A massive sinkhole had opened in the main shaft, swallowing machinery and workers alike. The Vraxians were frantic, barking orders in their clicking language as humans were forced into the unstable tunnels to recover something. "What are we even looking for?" Kai asked as they descended. "They said some kind of artifact chamber," another worker replied. "Must be something valuable." Hours passed as they dug through rubble. The air grew thin and hot, but the overseers pushed them relentlessly. Ilara was working deeper than the others when her shovel struck something that wasn't rock. The metallic clang echoed through the tunnel. "I found something," she called, brushing away debris. What emerged wasn't Vraxian technology. It wasn't human technology either. At least, not any she recognized. a smooth, metallic surface with swirling patterns that seemed to move under her gaze. At its center, a depression shaped perfectly for a human hand. Something inside her responded to it, like recognizing an old friend. Before she could stop herself, Ilara placed her palm against the depression. Pain exploded behind her eyes. Images flooded her mind. Vast fleets of ships traversing the galaxy, worlds being terraformed by human hands, alien species bowing before human rulers. Knowledge poured into her like water through a broken dam. Languages she'd never heard, technologies no human had wielded for millennia, star maps of empires long forgotten. And with it came a single devastating truth. Humanity was not young. Humanity was ancient, older than the Vraxians, older than any species currently claiming dominion over the galaxy. Earth was not humanity's birthplace. It was their refuge, a hidden corner where they had retreated after some catastrophic fall, their memories wiped, their technology buried, their history erased. When Ilara opened her eyes, they blazed with golden light. Her body hummed with power she couldn't comprehend but somehow knew how to use. She heard shouts from above. Vraxian guards were coming. One of them rounded the corner, neural lash raised. "Step away from the artifact, human," he commanded. Ilara didn't move. She simply looked at him, really looked at him, and understood what she was seeing. The Vraxians weren't monsters from nightmare. They were engineered creatures, designed long ago by human geneticists as warrior servants. Their very DNA contained fail-safes, command protocols that had been dormant for longer than their species had been sentient. "Kneel," Ilara said, her voice resonating with something older than language. The Vraxian guard froze. His exoskeleton trembled as ancient programming warred with his conscious mind. Then, slowly, impossibly, he sank to his knees. "What did you do?" Kai whispered, emerging from another tunnel to witness the impossible, a Vraxian obeying the human. "I remembered," Ilara said simply. "And soon, all of humanity will remember too." Word spread through the mines like wildfire, whispered from worker to worker. Something had happened in the deep tunnels. A human had commanded a Vraxian to kneel, and it had obeyed. The overseers increased security, executed workers suspected of spreading seditious lies, but they couldn't contain the hope that sparked. Within days, strange occurrences multiplied. A harvester in Sector 8 discovered she could interface directly with Vraxian technology. A laborer in the processing plant found he could understand the Vraxian language perfectly, despite never having been taught. Children born in the breeding facilities displayed unnatural strength and intelligence. The awakening had begun. The first organized resistance formed in what had once been Shanghai. A group of dock workers, led by a woman named Ming whose eyes now shimmered with the same golden light as Ilara's, seized control of a Vraxian supply depot. They should have been slaughtered immediately. Instead, they fought with impossible skill, wielding scavenged weapons as if they'd trained with them for centuries. Vraxian commanders from across Earth converged on the emergency. Reports filtered back to the mining sectors. The rebels had breached Vraxian communications, were using the aliens' own weapons against them. When orbital bombardment was ordered, something extraordinary happened. The bombardment ships malfunctioned, their targeting systems failing catastrophically. 3 days later, Shanghai was declared a forbidden zone by Vraxian authorities. No one was permitted to enter or leave. Rumors spread that humans there had established a sovereign territory, the first free human zone on Earth in 30 years. In mining Sector 17, Ilara found herself at the center of a growing underground movement. Workers came to her in secret, drawn by stories of what she had done. Some already showed signs of awakening. Flashes of golden eyes, unexplained knowledge, abilities that defied explanation. "What's happening to us?" they asked. "We're remembering who we are," Ilara told them. "What we were before they came, before we forgot." With each passing day, Ilara's own memories expanded. She saw the fall of the first human empire, not from conquest, but from within. Civil war on a galactic scale, factions using weapons that could rewrite reality itself, and finally, a desperate plan. Retreat to an obscure world, erase all knowledge of their past, hide in plain sight until the galaxy had forgotten to fear them. Begin again, innocent and new. But they had left fail-safes, repositories of knowledge buried deep beneath Earth's surface, genetic triggers that would reactivate dormant abilities when humanity faced extinction. The Vraxians, in their greed for Earth's resources, had accidentally triggered humanity's safeguards. The Vraxian response to the growing resistance was brutal. Entire sectors were purged. Breeding facilities were locked down. Work quotas doubled, then tripled. But it was too late. The awakening was exponential now. For every human executed, 10 more discovered their hidden abilities. 62 days after Ilara touched the artifact, the mining sectors erupted in coordinated revolt. Kai, now with eyes blazing golden like Ilara's, led the assault on the Overseer barracks. Vraxian weapons turned against their masters. Some Vraxians, confronted with humans whose eyes glowed with ancient authority, simply froze, their genetic programming preventing them from raising arms against their long-forgotten creators. Ilara's target was different. While the battle raged, she led a small team back to the collapsed tunnel in Sector 12. The Vraxians had been excavating something far more significant than a single artifact. They had found a repository, a vault of ancient human technology and knowledge. The doors of the repository recognized her now altered DNA and slid open silently. Inside, suspended in preservation fields, waited the tools that would change everything. Neural interfaces containing the complete history of human dominion, weapon schematics that could neutralize Vraxian fleets, and most importantly, the activation codes for dormant systems buried beneath every major Vraxian outpost on Earth, placed there millennia ago by humans who knew that one day they might need to reclaim what was theirs. This is just the beginning, Ilara told her wide-eyed companions as they gazed upon humanity's forgotten legacy. The Vraxians thought they were conquering a young, primitive species. They didn't realize they were waking the oldest empire the galaxy has ever known. Above them, the first Vraxian ships were already falling from the sky, their systems compromised by ancient commands they had no defense against. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, they were remembering. And what they remembered would reshape the galaxy. The first part of humanity's reckoning had begun. The reckoning. 6 months after the first uprising, Earth was unrecognizable. The massive Vraxian citadels that had dominated skylines for 3 decades now lay in ruins, their alien architecture crumbling as ancient human technology systematically dismantled them. The sickly green haze of Vraxian atmospheric modifications had begun to clear, revealing blue skies many young humans had never seen. Ilara stood at the command center of what had once been the Vraxian Global Authority in Geneva. The structure had been reclaimed and transformed, its alien interfaces replaced with sleek surfaces that responded to human thought. Around her, men and women with golden-flecked eyes worked with quiet efficiency, coordinating the global recovery effort. The last Vraxian stronghold in Australia has surrendered, reported Kai, now her second in command. The past 6 months had changed him dramatically. Gone was the hollow-eyed mine worker. In his place stood a warrior whose bearing spoke of ancient authority. Earth is officially free. Ilara nodded, studying the holographic display showing their home planet. Free, yes, but liberation was just the first step. What about the orbital platform? Under our control as of this morning, Kai replied. Commander Ming's team has secured all docking bays. The Vraxian reinforcement fleet has been warned to stay outside lunar orbit or face annihilation. The reinforcement fleet, 30 Vraxian warships that had been dispatched from the nearest colony world when Earth's rebellion began. 6 months ago, such a force would have seemed unstoppable. Now, with humanity's reawakened knowledge, they were merely an inconvenience. They still don't understand what they're facing, Ilara said quietly. They think this is just a particularly successful slave revolt. A young woman approached hesitantly, her golden eyes still new and uncertain. Director Kane, we've completed the initial analysis of the repository archives. There's something you need to see. The archive room hummed with energy as ancient systems interfaced with newly built terminals. The walls displayed star maps, thousands of worlds, color-coded and annotated in a language that humanity had not spoken for millennia, but that Ilara now read fluently. This was our empire, the analyst explained, gesturing to the vast swath of stars highlighted in gold. The first dominion of humanity. It spanned nearly a third of the galaxy at its height. The Vraxian Empire. She pointed to a much smaller cluster of stars marked in red. Occupies what was once just a minor provincial sector of human space. Ilara studied the map, memories that weren't quite her own stirring in response. And these? She asked, indicating scattered points of light pulsing with a steady blue glow. Restoration nodes. Automated facilities established before the Great Forgetting. They've been dormant for millennia, but they're still operational. If activated, they would begin manufacturing the technologies our ancestors used to maintain their rule, including the starships capable of faster-than-light travel. The implications were staggering. Earth's liberation wasn't the end. It was barely the beginning. The tools to reclaim humanity's galactic heritage were waiting, scattered across the stars, needing only the proper signal to awaken. How many other species in Vraxian space were once under human protection? Ilara asked. The analyst hesitated. Based on genetic markers, at least 70%. Most were client races, engineered or uplifted by humanity to serve specific functions in the Dominion, just as the Vraxians themselves had been long ago. Before they broke free, forgot their makers, and built an empire on stolen technology they barely understood. Ilara made her decision. Prepare the orbital platform for conversion. We'll need it as a staging ground for what comes next. You're planning to go beyond Earth, Kai said. It wasn't a question. The Vraxians came to our home, enslaved our people, and treated us like animals, Ilara replied, her golden eyes flaring. But worse than that, they've mismanaged what was once ours. The client races suffering under their rule were designed to flourish under human guidance. The technologies they've corrupted were meant for creation, not destruction. She paused, looking out at the stars. This isn't about revenge, Kai. It's about restoration. 3 weeks later, the first reclaimed Vraxian battleship, rechristened Humanity's Dawn, departed Earth orbit. Its systems had been completely overhauled, ancient human technology integrated with salvaged Vraxian components. Ilara commanded from the bridge, with Kai and a crew of 300, all awakened humans, manning stations designed for Vraxian physiology, but now responsive to human thought. Their destination, Proxima Centauri, site of the nearest restoration node. The Vraxian reinforcement fleet, still holding position beyond the moon, made no move to intercept them. Their communications revealed confusion and fear. None of their weapons could lock onto the transformed vessel, their sensors showing only empty space where the massive ship cruised with perfect confidence. The journey to Proxima Centauri would have taken Vraxian ships nearly 2 years. Humanity's Dawn arrived in 4 days. The restoration node orbited Proxima Centauri, disguised as a small barren moon. As they approached, Ilara felt it recognize her, sensors older than human civilization on Earth scanning her DNA, her neural patterns, verifying her identity as a true descendant of the Dominion. The surface of the moon split open like a flower blooming, revealing a vast complex of automated factories, shipyards, and data archives. Machines that had slumbered for thousands of years hummed to life, ready to serve. By the stars, whispered Kai, staring at the displays showing the true scale of the facility. Our ancestors built this. They built hundreds like it, Ilara replied. Insurance against exactly what happened, the fall of their civilization, the loss of their knowledge. She turned to her communications officer. Send the activation signal to Earth. Tell them we found our first stepping stone. Within days, the restoration node was fully operational, producing technologies that made even the most advanced Vraxian systems seem primitive by comparison. Quantum communicators that allowed instantaneous contact across any distance, barrier fields that could withstand the force of a small star going nova, ships that could bend space itself, traveling between worlds in the time it took to draw a breath. More importantly, the node contained detailed records of the client races, including the Vraxians, the genetic sequences that had been encoded into their very being, the command protocols that could not be removed without destroying them entirely. The Vraxian homeworld of Vrax Prime has detected our presence, reported the sensor chief, 2 weeks after their arrival. They've dispatched their Imperial fleet, 87 capital ships, arrival estimated in 6 days. Ilara nodded calmly. More than enough time. When the Vraxian Imperial fleet arrived, they found not one ship but 50 waiting for them. Vessels of gleaming silver and gold, constructed by the Restoration Node and crewed by humans transported from Earth through space-full technology. Ships whose smallest weapons could vaporize a Vraxian dreadnought with a single shot. No battle was fought. No shot was fired. Instead, Ilara opened a communication channel to the Vraxian fleet commander. "I am Director Ilara Kane of the Restored Human Dominion," she announced, her eyes blazing gold, her voice carrying the weight of ancient authority. "Your species was created by mine, long ago. You were designed to serve, to protect, to build. You were given intelligence, strength, and skill. But you were never meant to rule." On her command, a specific frequency was transmitted to the Vraxian fleet, a signal that reached deep into the genetic coding of every Vraxian who heard it. Their mandibles trembled. Their compound eyes flared with recognition of something buried in their deepest instincts. One by one, the Vraxian ships powered down their weapons. The fleet commander, fighting against programming older than his civilization, managed only one question. "What? What do you want?" "Your surrender," Ilara replied simply. "And then, your help." The conquest of the Vraxian Empire was not the bloody affair the aliens had expected. There were no mass executions, no planetary bombardments, no extinction-level events. Instead, humanity moved with precise, almost surgical efficiency. Key worlds were secured first, planets housing client races suffering most under Vraxian rule. The Thalassians, a species of empathic crystalline beings who had once been the diplomatic corps of the human dominion. The Kirisha, master geneticists who had helped create many of the other client races. The Moravi, living libraries whose memory structures could store the equivalent of 1,000 Earth data centers in a single individual. All of them responded to humanity's return with something between awe and relief. Many of their oldest legends spoke of the golden-eyed makers who would one day return to restore balance to the galaxy. The Vraxians themselves were not eradicated but repurposed, returned to the role they had been designed for. Elite guards, specialized labor force, fortress builders. Under human guidance, they were already proving more efficient, more fulfilled than they had been as self-appointed galactic rulers. 6 months after securing the Proxima Centauri node, Ilara stood on the observation deck of the Restored Dominion's new flagship, the Memory Eternal, orbiting Vrax Prime. The planet below had been transformed, Vraxian architecture giving way to the elegant efficiency of human design. The harsh red landscape softened with engineered vegetation that could thrive in such an environment. "Director," Kai said, joining her at the viewport, "the Council of Restoration wishes to speak with you. They're discussing the next phase of expansion." The Council, a governing body formed of awakened humans from every former Earth territory, had been established to prevent the mistakes of the past. The ancient dominion had fallen to civil war, to factions seeking power for its own sake. This time, humanity would move forward united, with clear purpose. "Tell them I'll be there shortly," Ilara replied, her gaze still fixed on the planet below. "Something troubling you?" Kai asked, sensing her hesitation. Ilara turned to him, her golden eyes reflective. "We've accomplished so much in so little time. Earth is free. The Vraxians are contained. We've reclaimed 12 major systems and restored 4 client races to their proper status. She paused. But I keep thinking about what we found in the deepest archives, about why our ancestors chose to forget, to hide, to start over as a primitive species on a single world. Kai's expression grew serious. The enemy beyond. According to the oldest records, the original Dominion hadn't fallen solely to internal strife. Something had been coming from the edges of the galaxy, something so terrible that a faction of humanity had believed their only hope for long-term survival was to disappear, to become too insignificant to notice. The timing can't be coincidence, Ilara said quietly. Our ancestors estimated it would take the enemy about 30,000 years to reach the core systems. That time is now. The Vraxian invasion of Earth may have been the best thing that could have happened to us. It forced our awakening just when we need our full strength. You think they're already here? Kai asked, a chill running through him. I think they've been watching. Testing boundaries. The unusual aggression of the Vraxians, their specific interest in Earth. I don't believe it was random. She turned from the viewport to face him fully. The archives say the enemy works by proxy at first, manipulating lesser species, studying potential threats before revealing themselves. Then our reclamation of the Dominion. We'll draw them out, Ilara finished. That's why we need to move quickly, to secure as much of our ancestors' territory as possible before the true confrontation begins. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. Kai checked his neural interface. Director, we're receiving an unusual signal. It's coming from the Galactic Rim, using one of our ancient emergency bands. Ilara's pulse quickened. Put it through. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a face that made both of them freeze in shock. The figure was human, or appeared human, but with eyes that glowed not gold but a deep cosmic purple. When it spoke, its voice resonated with power that dwarfed even Ilara's awakened abilities. Children of the forgetting. The figure said, you have remembered well, but not completely. I am Admiral Thorn of the Continuity Fleet. While you slept in your innocence on Earth, some of us remained awake, watching, preparing. The enemy has arrived. We've been fighting them for nearly a century on the Rim. Ilara found her voice. The archives never mentioned a continuity fleet. That was deliberate. Admiral Thorn replied. Complete forgetting was necessary for most of humanity, but a small fraction was preserved, hidden throughout the galaxies, maintaining vigilance. We are the direct inheritors of the First Dominion's final directive. Ensure humanity survives to fight the last war. How many of you are there? Kai asked. Enough to hold the line, but not enough to win. That's why we've been waiting for you to awaken. The Admiral's purple eyes seemed to bore into Ilara. You've done well reclaiming what was lost, Director Kane. Now it's time to join forces against what comes next. Ilara straightened, feeling the weight of history, past and future, settling on her shoulders. What do you need from us? Everything you've rebuilt. Every ship, every technology, every awakened human. Admiral Thorn's image flickered slightly, as if the transmission was under attack. And most importantly, the coordinates of all remaining restoration nodes. There's one in particular we need to access immediately. The archives would have called it the Genesis node. Recognition flashed in Ilara's mind, knowledge buried deep but now surfacing. The Genesis node, largest of all restoration facilities, containing technologies even the First Dominion had deemed too powerful to use except in the most desperate circumstances. I know where it is, she said. We'll need to gather our forces. Admiral Thorn nodded grimly. Make haste, Director. The enemy has broken through our outer defenses. You have perhaps 3 months before they reach the former Vraxian territories. As the transmission ended, Ilara turned to Kai, her expression resolute. Contact the Council immediately. All restoration efforts are now secondary to defensive preparations. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed suddenly colder, more distant. Somewhere out there, The force that had frightened even the mighty First Dominion was approaching, a threat so grave that humanity's ancestors had chosen to erase their own civilization rather than face it unprepared. But this time, humanity would not hide. This time, they would stand and fight, not just for themselves, but for every world under their protection. The Vraxians thought they conquered a weak, primitive species, Ilara said, her golden eyes flaring with determination. Instead, they awakened the only force in the galaxy capable of saving it. The true test of humanity's return was just beginning.